Ford from Atlanta. I assume you're from Atlanta. Okay? And so he's going to talk about the SPCC regulations.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody. I'm sorry I kind of screwed up the schedule today. I didn't mean to. I was had one of these bad summer colds on Monday. Thought my head would explode if I flew yesterday, so I put it off till today. I'm glad I'm here. It was pouring rain in Atlanta, and I thought I'd be late, but it all worked out, so I'm here. So again, I apologize for the mix-up. I want to thank Steve for inviting me. I'm glad you all guys are here. If you don't understand something, what I'm saying, or have questions, stop me at any time. Okay, I'm here for you. Okay, answer any questions you have about this and so forth. And I'll hang around after I'm done to answer any questions. I don't have anything else. I'm not trying to race back to Atlanta today. So if you got questions, I'll stay here as long as I need to. But I am out of Atlanta. I do work with EPA. I've been with EPA for about 20 years in the emergency response program. I started going to school at Georgia Tech and worked part-time with EPA. I'm from South Georgia, small town, White Cross, Georgia. You know where that is. I never thought I'd live in Atlanta for 20 years. But been there 20 years and so forth, have a family and all that. So that's a little bit of background on myself. I don't have a farming background. My granddad, was a farmer in northwest Florida. Had about 20 acres, raised corn, grew corn, raised some cows and pigs and so forth. So I certainly have a special place in my heart for farmers and where you're coming from and that kind of thing. So again, I'll be glad to help you out. At the end of this, you'll see my email and phone number. So if you want to call me, email me on another day, that's fine too. Okay, that's part of what I do, is answer any questions about this. With that being said, go ahead.
The handout that I gave them, as he's going through the presentation, when he gets to some of the pictures, I did not copy all the pictures and put it in the PowerPoint presentation, but all the slides that have text are in your handout, and then there are other slides that he'll show you. It's a picture of a tank or something. I didn't feel it was necessary to copy all of those in there as well. So as he's going through, all the text slides are in your handout, the pictures of the tanks or not.
Yeah, there are a lot of photos in here. It's not just a bunch of text. I mean, granted, I've just shrunk this down into just something that I tried to make it short and sweet. I mean, we have to take the class for about a week to go through all this, and you still don't know it that well till you get out and look at it. But I've been doing it for a long time. But I have summarized a lot of this stuff. If you have specific questions, I'm sure we can get into that. But I'm giving you a very, very basic overview of what this is all about. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background of my organization, talk about who's regulated, one slide on what you need in a written plan, and then how you implement this stuff. Okay. Within our region, Region 4, if you're not familiar with Region 4, this is it. We're based out of Atlanta, the southeastern states, Kentucky and so forth, Carolinas down to Florida. This is our region, our jurisdiction for EPA laws and regs, and also for response jurisdiction. My group primarily goes on oil spills and hazardous substance spills. The red line you see there denotes the boundary between EPA and Coast Guard. If there was a spill happened of the red line, seaward, if you will, that's all Coast Guard jurisdiction. The red line landward, which is a big area, is all EPA. Now, we don't go out there for spill, but we do have an active response program and get out quite often. There was a spill in Tampa last week about some ethanol rail cars and so forth. The Coast Guard pulled us in on that. We get about 30 or so calls a day for oil spills and hazardous substance spills of it is just to prevent an oil spill. It's not to give us something else to do. We're a pretty busy group. But that's the whole point behind it, to prevent a spill from happening and so forth, and ensure you have a mechanism to respond if need be. Hopefully you can see some of this. Got a few, what's the reg supposed to do, why is it in place. This is what we call a production facility. Production just means you're in an oil field. This is up in Kentucky. We have oil fields in Kentucky, parts of Tennessee, South Alabama, South Mississippi. Actually, there's some in Everglades. And in the far northwest corner of Florida, up around Jay, Florida, there's still some oil fields up in there too. This is a production facility, one tank facility. Crude oil that had total bottom side corrosion. This is all crude oil that came out. They weren't maintaining their dike area. So where is spilled oil going to go, or everything else goes downhill along the water. Doesn't look too bad here, just flowed out by a lady's house out to the ditch and had some hay bales and so forth, but how they got most of it up was just going through the lady's yard with a sump to recover all the crude. Had they just maintained their dike area here, it should have stayed all within that dike area, and they wouldn't, EPA may not have gotten involved in that in this case. You know, they would have had a much cheaper response on their hands. Because this stuff, it's not cheap once it gets out. It costs you some money to clean it up and so forth. Then you got to deal with the state as far as soil remediation levels and so forth and that kind of thing. But that's what SPCC is for, to try and prevent something from like that happening. Then you get into things like this that we see when you get a tank leak. How do you fix it? Prevent something from happening? I mean, you don't really want to put a pencil in it and keep on moving with this, the kind of things we see. Put a pencil in it, put a trash can under it. You know, you should try and empty the tank and get a good weld on there, patch on there before you keep your operations going. Okay? So a lot of history here. I don't expect you, certainly don't expect you to know all this. I'm just going to go over kind of the beginning and the end. In 1974, that's when the original SPCC rule came out. So it's not new. It came out in 1974. Had some big events back in when 90 Exxon got the East spill and a big tank up in Pennsylvania that split open, and that got Congress to push on EPA. They want EPA to tighten up the SPCC reg some so we didn't have tanks split wide open and that kind of thing. So some proposals came out. Nothing really happened with them until 2002. And these proposals, no, they weren't proposals, these amendments became final in 2002. And that's when a lot of focus came on a reg. A lot of people, they were like, oh, what is this reg? I've never heard of it before. Got a lot of pressure, got sued, had a lot of political pressure, had to delay a lot of dates associated with these amended regulations and so forth. And they all basically went final for most folks in November of 2011. Now, if you're a farm, which I assume all of you are, you had some more time to amend your plan if you had one per the reg. You actually had until May of this year to amend your plan if you had one, amended to the amended rules and so forth. If you didn't have one, then you're out of compliance and you needed to try and move towards doing this as soon as you could. But that's a brief history of the reg. I just want you to know it's not new. It's been around since the 70s. And then some compliance days came around after some amendments came out in the early 2000s. One thing about the amendments that came out in 2002, it was almost 10 years before these amendments became final. There was so much pressure, political pressure, and lawsuits and all this. It took 10 years to get through all the federal government stuff to make it final. And that's about when, at the time, I became dedicated to the program, was 2002. So it's been an interesting past 10 years to see how things work up in D.C. and dealing with that kind of stuff. So brief history there. Don't know if you've ever heard about this spill, but this is a signature event in the history of the reg. It's called the Ashland oil spill. The tank, there was a big tank. It was about 4 million gallons. These are called field-directed tanks. They erect them on site. It takes a while to build them. This tank was in Ohio, and they dismantled it, took it to Pennsylvania, Florida, Pennsylvania, and erected it. Didn't do a hydrostatic test. They just filled it up with diesel on a cold day, and then like a few days later, the thing just the slide you see in the top right is a total failure of a 4 million gallon tank. Oil, when you got that much, any type of product, really, if it catastrophically fails, your containment system's not going to hold all the pores and so forth. It's just going to flow right towards the release product. It's going to jump right over your containment walls and so forth. And that's what happened. I went out to the Monongahela River, and there were something like 1 million people. This is right outside of Pittsburgh, didn't have drinking water. The tank there on the left was not the tank that collapsed. That big binge you see in that tank, that was the force of the diesel that rushed out of the tank on the top right, bent that tank in that far. Fortunately, that tank didn't go too. But this was one of the signature events, and one of the reasons Congress wanted to try and tighten some things up with the SPCC reg and so forth. And this also led to another reg I'm not going to get into. Big oil companies have to prepare response plans and submit those to EPA and Coast Guard in some cases. But that's a big event in the history of the reg. So that's some background of it. Talk about who's regulated is the biggest thing. I could spend hours kind of going through some of this, but I don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to hit on the highlights here. Just because you're a farm or an industrial facility or an oil company or an airport or whoever, military base, doesn't mean you're necessarily following the regulation. You have to meet some criteria. First thing is you gotta have oil at your facility. And oil would be diesel, gasoline, kerosene, motor oils, lube oils, and so forth. Animal fats and vegetable oils are also considered oils for purposes of the reg. A waste oil tank, that would also be something that would be considered oil and so forth. So you gotta have oil. You need to have it in, for the most part, in an above ground container. You got to store over 1,320 gallons. The bottom there, that's what pulls most people in, is the above ground threshold. You got to be what's called non-transportation related. All I'm going to say is, as a farm, you're non-transportation related. There's no need to get into what's transportation related versus non-transportation related. If you got a tank at your farm, that's going to be a non-transportation related tank. You're not moving oil in commerce, it's coming to your facility and it's sitting in that tank. That's non-transportation related. The one that's probably the hardest to understand and sometimes it's hard to explain is the fourth one there. Due to your location, you reasonably could be expected to discharge oil into quantities that are harmful into what's called navigable waters. So that basically means you have the potential to spill oil into a waterway. You have to make that determination for yourself. In some cases it's easy to think about this if you're near a stream or a river. I mean, it would make sense. Navigable doesn't mean you have to float a boat on it. But if you're right near a stream or a river or a flowing creek that's flowing year round, in most cases that's probably going to be considered a navigable water. Now I go back to my granddaddy's farm in Northwest Florida. He was nowhere near anything like that, but he certainly had ditches all around his farm. That ditch could be the conduit to push spilled oil a foot, 10 feet, a mile, whatever, during a rainfall event to get it into a navigable water. So that's probably for you would be a big thing to consider, any ditches on your property there. If you spill oil into that ditch, could the ditch transport it during a rainfall event? A few feet to a mile or something like that. If you have some tanks at your farm and you've got a very flat area and you think, I've only got 2,000 gallons sitting here, if I spill it, it's not going anywhere. If that's what you think and that's all you got, then you've made a determination you don't feel you're regulated. Okay? I'm not going to argue with you over the phone. It'd be hard for me to say something unless I came out to your place and looked at it and so forth. But I will tell you the same thing I'm telling you now. Realize if you have an oil, if you store it somewhere where you're storing it, if you spilled it, could it be transported over land or into a ditch and then reach into a potentially navigable water? Okay. You're not in an urban environment, but you could have the same deal in a city. I mean, if you hit a storm sewer and pop out the ditch or go to a wastewater treatment plant or something like that, that could be the navigable water as well. Are there any questions on that?
Yeah, the spray oil that we use in citrus is also included as one of those oils that would cause you to have to be covered under the rule.
Is that what you call, there are some containers that you don't have to consider the oil that's in pesticides and so forth.
The 435, typically, the 435, 455.
Yeah, you don't have to consider those containers. Those things basically fall out, fall out.
That's not the interpretation I was told.
Okay, well, we can talk about that later. I mean, certainly when you're spraying a pesticide, you're not gonna consider when you're spraying it, when it hits water, a reportable event to the National Response Center. But if you have a storage tank of diesel or something like that, then sure.
But we do transport spray oil.
Right. Okay.
Bulk.
Is it just oil?
Yeah.
Or does it have pesticides and so forth mixed in it?
The oil is a pesticide.
They're oil, but usually it's less than 1,320 gallons also.
It's less or more?
In our case, it's usually 1,000 gallons at a time.
It's coming in a truck to your facility.
But that's a storage facility at one location, which is a large thing.
Right. It's 1,000 gallons.
That's 10,000.
Okay, well, that's good. I can put you with the rest of it, sure. Let me, I wanted to go to, here we go. The pesticide application, there are some things that are exempt from SPCC, and you don't count towards the threshold. The pesticide application equipment, any of those containers that are containing pesticide, that's exempt. That's in the reg. Okay? So if you've got a container or something like that with a pesticide mixed in with an oil, that falls out of SPCC plain as day. It's exempt. Oil in any of your tractors or things like that, or fuel cells on your trucks, that's exempt too. Anything less than 55 gallons. You know, we laughed about milk, but the milk industry said, well, there's fat in milk, is that regulated? That's exempt as well. Not that you have heating oil at your house, but any heating oil at your house, you have to have a heating oil tank, that's exempt as well. So there are some things that are exempt. And certainly motive power and the pesticide application equipment and containers could be exempt there for you. And if you have any other specific questions, we can talk about that. Is there anything else, Steve, you wanted to get to with that? Okay. Let's see, I've already kind of gone through all this, but these are the criteria. You gotta have the potential to spill it, you gotta have a certain amount. The magic number there is 1,320 gallons.
Per tank or per facility?
Per facility. Now, farm is just another type of facility. There is a definition in there. It talks about you got to meet this definition to be considered a farm and so forth. Not that that impacts you too much, other than it did give you the benefit of these compliance dates that got laid out somewhat. Farm is a type of facility. You may be regulated if you meet the storage thresholds, type of oils that could be there. I think we've gone through, talked about these already somewhat. Navigable waters, I've already touched on this. The traditional navigable waters, rivers, lakes, tributaries of those, many of those are going to be considered navigable waters. But then don't forget about conduits near your facility that can transport oil into a navigable water. Exemptions, be familiar with these. You're looking to see if you meet the storage criteria and so forth. You make applicability, you make that determination, okay? I don't make it for you unless we have to, and really for us it would be if we responded to a spill or the state of Florida asked us to come do an inspection. In my years of being in the region, we've never gone and inspected a farm, a straight up farm. I mean, we got a lot of other facilities that we got to put our priorities on. You know, we got refineries and, you know, oil storage at Tampa. You know, they got 50 million gallons of diesel and gasoline and so forth. We got 500 of those facilities we know of because they have determine you're not regulated, we don't need anything from you. If you determine you are regulated, we don't need anything from you. You don't submit anything to EPA to tell us you're SPCC regulated. If you decide you're regulated, you do your plan and you implement it and you just maintain it at your office somewhere. Okay? You don't send that in. Okay? There are thousands upon thousands and thousands of these type of regulated facilities. Okay? I get enough submittals just based on the facility response plan reg. There's no way we can handle the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of SPCC plans we could potentially do. Okay? So you don't send that to us. If we did have to look at a plan, we're not going to approve it. We would just tell you this is good, or you got some issues here, some problems. If we have to do an inspection, that's when we would look at your plan. So applicability, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer sitting on an ocean side and somewhere up in the northwest. You notice no secondary containment, foundation on sand, and some good old railroad ties there. This is a facility, not a farm, but this guy did provide diesel fuel for farmers in South Georgia, not too far from my hometown. This guy had a spill. We didn't respond to the spill. We didn't get asked to respond. We found out about it about a week later, and then we were asked to come look at him SPCC-wise. And I actually was the one who looked at this facility, and as I rolled up, you know, they're single wall tanks. I absolutely see no secondary containment whatsoever. I don't know if you see the second tank there, the one that's sticking up. You know, nobody puts a manway halfway up the tank. That tank should be flipped. It's on its horizontal axis, not sticking up in a vertical. And he had guide wires on it, 3 different areas to keep it from tipping over. Unfortunately for him, what happened was, you know, the fuel supplier flipped his pipe assembly, and out came a couple thousand gallons worth of diesel. A lot of it got absorbed into the dirt there, but it went out in the parking lot, hit the asphalt, and went to 2 different storm drains, and then popped out in the middle of the ditch. And he actually had a little fish gill on his hand. So as soon as you start killing the critters, you know, you had the state of Georgia wildlife folks all over him, and county EMA and so forth, and state of Georgia responders, and then we got notified a few days later. And I show this because I've never been able to get a good satellite view of this facility, so I just got a USGS quad and kind of zeroed in on it. But what I've done is that right there, that's the facility. This is where the tanks were. This is the corner. See that little runoff right there? Right in there, boom. It would flow straight into that river if it went that far. It got about down into here. There was standing water all in here, and I think there was a decent sized little fish gill right in here just from the diesel that was spilled. So this guy, he proved to us he could spill it to a navigable water, or a conduit to a navigable water. He met all the criteria. He had well over 1,320 gallons. He had oil. It was non-transportation related, and unfortunately it went into a waterway there for him. He met all the criteria from that spill. Proved it to us. He didn't have a plan. Of course, you can tell, like I already said, he didn't have containment. He just decided, I'm not going to try and come to compliance. I'm just going to get rid of all my tanks. So he just got rid of all his ASTs and just kept his USTs, underground storage tanks that he had.
Is there a maximum that?
Maximum what?
Maximum quantity that we follow? Does it matter?
A maximum? You mean
20, 30,000 gallons on one site?
no, you mean is there a limit on how much you can have? Oh no, you can store as much as you want. I mean, you know, you could be like the refinery, Ergon Refinery in Vicksburg, Mississippi. You know, they got like 120 million gallons of oil. You can store whatever you want.
And they fill out their own same plan?
They have an SPCC plan, and then they have a facility response plan that they have to submit as well. Once you get over 1 million gallons, there's a response plan reg that kicks in, and they submit that to EPA. We have to review those and approve those, and because in this case they're doing overwater transfer on the river, Mississippi River, they have to, the Coast Guard's involved too for their dock operation. The same deal up in Tampa, all the oil terminals you have there, Chevron, BP, and so forth. They have their SPCC plans. applicability examples. Now, I don't want to confuse you, but some of you may have heard about a compliance deadline. I'm not getting a lot of calls from folks in Florida, but I've gotten a lot of calls from North Carolina farmers and Kentucky farmers, because some vendor up there sent a letter out, kind of shocked the community, saying EPA is coming to inspect you, and we're going to do this and that, you need to come into compliance. The guy was running a business. He wanted to do their plans for them. In a way, he's helping them, but in a way, he's also scaring them, too. So I've gotten calls from all kinds of folks. It's a pleasure to talk to them on the phone, but they're scared, beyond belief. I got a 55-gallon drum. Do I fall into this? No, you don't come close to falling into this. So these deadlines, though, that came out triggered that. And people saw this May 10th, 2013 deadline and thought, uh-oh, I better do my plan if I haven't done one already and so forth. And that's kind of a misleading way to interpret this. But when I was getting into those compliance deadlines, just understand the reg was revised in 2002. And since then, there's been a couple revisions to those 2002 revisions. And farmers had until May 10th, 2013 to amend their existing plan to the current reg. That's what the deadline was all about. It was not to give you time to do your plan for the first time. A lot of folks thought, oh, I had until May 10th, 2013 as a farm to do my plan for the first time, and that's not what it was doing. It was just giving you time to amend your plan to the amended regulation. That's what it was doing. Now, if you happen to be a new farm, and say you went into operation in the past few years, you did have until May 10th, 2013. It was a loophole that was there because the compliance dates kept getting extended out. So for some reason, you say you were a farm and you just put a tank on there 5 years ago, and you fell into the red. You had until May 10th, 2013 to do your plan and implement it. Okay? So really, the only people who got the benefit of totally complying was new facilities. Okay? And now, so we're past that date, and now if you have to bring on a tank to your facility, creating a new facility, you're supposed to do all this before you start your operations. But then again, remember, it's not something you submit to us. So it's leaving it up to you to determine are you regulated and what you need to do. If you go into operation today, you're not going to submit anything to us. Just do your plan and hopefully implement it and so forth. Are there any questions on this? Deadlines? Okay. Well, you can always ask me or call me, email me later if you have questions. I only present one slide